Good morning. This is the morning from the New York Times. I'm Sam Sifton. Today is Thursday, July 30th, 2026. We have a great deal to cover this morning, beginning with the news that broke overnight: the United States bombarded sites in Iran. That marks a sharp escalation in a conflict that has been cycling between confrontation and calm for weeks now. But I'm going to start, as the newsletter does, with what amounts to a domestic campaign of retribution and payouts orchestrated from the White House, a story that spans the Justice Department, the Senate, and the Supreme Court, and that reveals, in newly filed court documents, just how directly the president is involving himself in federal law enforcement actions against his perceived enemies. Let's begin with James Comey. The former FBI director, longtime nemesis of President Trump, is fighting a criminal charge that he threatened the president's life. The basis? A photograph Comey posted in 2025 of seashells arranged on a North Carolina beach in the shape of the numbers 8647. Prosecutors say 86 is gangster slang for murder. Trump is the 47th president. Comey says 86 is tavern jargon, meaning to eject a disorderly customer. His lawyers filed a motion to dismiss yesterday, calling the case a vindictive and selective prosecution. And the filing is built on internal government documents turned over in discovery that, as Devlin Barrett and Alan Feuer write, provide one of the most glaring examples to date of the degree to which Mr. Trump now directs federal law enforcement actions. Here's what those documents show. The Secret Service questioned Comey about the posting. An agent received a direct request from Trump to forward him details from the interview. That summary was sent to Air Force One even as Trump told Fox News that same day he was not going to get involved in the case. Secret Service agents tailed Comey's car from North Carolina to Virginia. The filing says that number 3 guy at DOJ wanted to ping Comey's phone without a traditional warrant, a request typically reserved for emergencies involving dangerous, fleeing suspects. The agents following Comey even lost him briefly. He had turned off the highway to visit the gravesite of his son, who died in 1995. The man Trump has tapped to lead the Justice Department and oversee this case is Todd Blanche, the president's former personal lawyer. But Blanche's confirmation is in trouble. Last night, Senate Republicans delayed a vote on his nomination after two key Judiciary Committee members, John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina, threatened to block it. The issue, a deal Blanche cut as acting Attorney General to settle Trump's lawsuit with the IRS. In June, Blanche said he would drop a proposed $1.8 billion fund to compensate what the administration calls victims of Biden-era Justice Department actions. But a provision shielding Trump and his family from tax investigations would remain, potentially a $100 million windfall. Blanche has refused to put on paper the details of this promise to kill parts of the deal. Cornyn told Glenn Thrush and Michael Gold he didn't know what the holdup was and didn't rule out that Trump wants to keep the tax immunity deal. I can see why he wants it, Cornyn added, because it provides immunity from audits no other taxpayer would get. And even as Blanche publicly retreated from the fund, payouts appear to continue without formal structure. Yesterday, the government announced a 7-figure payment to an anti-abortion activist, Paul Vaughn, convicted by a Tennessee jury in 2024 of conspiring to prevent access to an abortion clinic. Trump pardoned him last year. Vaughn's lawyers had argued the Biden administration weaponized the Justice Department against him. Barrett and Feuer report that Blanche's management style draws criticism that he continues to act like Mr. Trump's personal defense attorney, rather than a senior law enforcement official with responsibilities to taxpayers, the rule of law and the public. A federal judge in Minnesota made that exact critique in June, quashing grand jury subpoenas of Democratic officials and writing that Blanche's department had used criminal investigations to retaliate against and pressure the president's political and personal adversaries. Relatedly, Trump asked the Supreme Court on Tuesday to overturn an $83.3 million jury award against him for defaming E. Jean Carroll, who accused him of a decades-old sexual assault. Trump's petition asserts that the court's 2024 decision granting president sweeping immunity for official acts shields him from liability. It's the first case in the nation's history in which a president has invoked that immunity defense in a defamation suit stemming from a personal accusation. Now to Capitol Hill, where Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared yesterday before a Senate committee investigating the origins of COVID-19. He invoked his Fifth Amendment rights at least 100 times. Senator Rand Paul, the Republican chairman, faces what Fauci called an unhinged obsession with me. The hearing lasted nearly 3 hours. Fauci repeated, on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, again and again. Paul said the committee would vote next week on whether to hold Fauci in contempt of Congress. All of this unfolds against a backdrop of widening war in the Middle East. The United States struck Iran again Wednesday evening, what Central Command called a powerful response after Iran fired multiple missiles at American bases in Jordan on Tuesday. The U.S. intercepted those missiles, but the incident pulled Trump back into a conflict he appeared days earlier to want to de-escalate. Over the weekend, he rejected a return to full-scale war. But as Julian Barnes, Helene Cooper, and Eric Schmidt report, Iran has proved a stubborn enemy. Experts say Iran is becoming more determined as the conflict goes on. The war is spreading. An apparent drone attack on Egypt's Mediterranean port of Damietta hit 2 ships, including a U.S.-owned natural gas storage tanker. 3 marine tracking companies reported the explosion, one attributed it to a drone. Egyptian authorities and the ship's owners haven't officially confirmed. The attack broadens the conflict geographically, though analysts say it's less likely to affect global energy markets than strikes in the Gulf. Meanwhile, U.S. and Saudi airstrikes targeted Iran-aligned militias in Iraq early Wednesday, killing at least 20 people. For months, Baghdad has struggled to curb these militias under U.S. pressure to disarm them and cut off funding. But Erica Solomon and Fali Hassan report these strikes risk upending those efforts, giving the militias new justification to hold onto their arms and claim they're the forces best positioned to protect Iraq. In Gaza, the Israeli military bombed a mosque, accusing Hamas of using it to store weapons. The Hamas-run media office called the claim entirely false and said it aimed to justify attacks on mosques. The Israeli military said advance warning was given to civilians. No deaths were reported. A striking chart from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project (ACLT) shows just how unusually volatile this U.S.-Iran cycle has been, whiplashing between conflict and calm in a pattern without recent precedent. In domestic politics, Ken Paxton, the Republican Senate candidate in Texas, is far behind his Democratic challenger in fundraising. National Republicans so far aren't stepping in to help, a peculiar dynamic in a race that could decide Senate control. Trump unveiled a $22.5 billion redesign of Dulles International Airport at the White House Wednesday, framing it as part of his effort to remake Washington. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, he said, you don't want to go and be subjected to this airport. The project would include a new United Lounge and aim to make the airport easier to navigate. On healthcare, more uninsured patients are showing up in emergency rooms, unable to pay, after congressional Republicans cut enhanced Obamacare subsidies. Hospital executives across large systems report an unexpectedly sharp rise in uninsured patients, more unpaid bills, and more charity care. Some say patients are foregoing or postponing elective procedures. And the Trump administration announced Tuesday it would end a Biden-era program that for 2 years helped tamp down Medicare drug premiums for millions of seniors, meaning higher costs next year, potentially politically damaging ahead of the midterms. Around the world, Cuba is struggling through an energy crisis worsened by Trump's fuel blockade. But people are adapting. Our correspondent visited a children's movie night in Havana, a small glimpse of resilience. Russia charged Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, with facilitating terrorism, escalating the Kremlin's efforts to control communication not under its direct control. The FSB issued an international arrest warrant for Durov, 41, accusing Telegram of failing to remove information used by Ukrainian special services and terrorist groups. The South Korean supergroup BTS said it would not compete in the Grammy Awards, protesting the Recording Academy's new category for Best Asian Pop Music Performance. We hope music can be heard and loved for what it is, the group said, rather than being divided into region or language. In Northern Ireland, Protestant loyalists have long clashed with Catholics. Now, Megan Specia reports from Belfast, some are shifting their anger to immigrants. During this month's 12th of July celebrations, anti-immigrant ideology found a new toehold in loyalist neighborhoods, with flutes and drums echoing through Sandy Row and Union Jack bunting overhead in unusually hot summer air. The Federal Reserve held interest rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75% Wednesday, a 9-3 vote. But 3 officials dissented, wanting a quarter-point increase: Beth Hammack of Cleveland, Neil Kashkari of Minneapolis, and Lori Logan of Dallas. It was Kevin Warsh's second meeting as chairman, and the divisions underscore the tough spot the Fed finds itself in after 5 years of inflation overshooting the 2% target. Long-term government borrowing costs shot up immediately after. The 30-year Treasury yield jumped 0.11 percentage points to 5.22%, its highest since 2007 and largest one-day rise in over a year. The 10-year yield also climbed. Investors, it seems, doubt Warsh can keep inflation contained. Two other big stories. In Marietta, Ohio, hundreds of millions of gallons of radioactive fracking wastewater, pumped underground for disposal, are bubbling up to the surface through older oil and gas wells. The city is fighting back. Ohio is a major importer of this wastewater, and it doesn't always stay where it's put. And 7 years after eBay security personnel stalked and harassed two Massachusetts journalists, David and Ina Steiner, to stop them from publishing stories, the company and 3 former executives agreed to pay $56 million to settle. The Steiners announced the terms Monday. eBay acknowledged the deal Tuesday. The 2019 conduct is not representative of eBay's culture, a spokesman said. In opinion, David Coggins argues men should never wear shorts at the office. Do you really want to see your boss's knees? And Frank Bruni and Brett Stevens discuss the Fauci hearing and the Democratic Party's relationship with the Democratic Socialists of America. Morning reads, a Nantucket store owner put up a no influencers sign as a joke. People took it seriously. The most clicked link yesterday was about a man charged with a felony after giving customs agents a duress passcode that erased his phone, an open-source operating system feature that self-destructs data. California wine growers are burning their vines as younger people turn to canned cocktails, seltzers, and non-alcoholic drinks. Pinot Noir grapes ripped out by tractor, wooden posts set ablaze. And Glenn Hansard, the Irish singer-songwriter, frontman of The Frames, Oscar winner for Falling Slowly from the film Once, died early Wednesday in a motorcycle crash in Dublin. He was 56. In one map, the AI boom is marking the landscape. From the American Midwest to the Persian Gulf, hundreds of major data centers will come online in coming years, delivering computing power with no technological precedent. AI companies are recruiting thousands of electricians and construction workers in Michigan. OpenAI's project in Saline Township is the biggest single investment in state history. And the Trump administration is repurposing federal land. Yesterday, the Energy Department said it would redevelop a retired Cold War-era uranium enrichment facility in Paducah, Kentucky, into a massive AI data center campus with gas plants to power it. Sports, the NBA's investigation into Kawhi Leonard's endorsement deal continues. The podcast Pablo Torre Finds Out unpacks another oddity involving a Rhode Island soccer project. And a 19-year-old thrifter from Portland bought a Lakers warm-up jacket with Wilt Chamberlain's name at Goodwill for $3.07. It resold at auction last week for nearly $90,000. Recipe of the day, Melissa Clark's stir-fried green beans with ground chicken, but I'm using ground lamb, as she allows, luxuriating in how it absorbs cumin, garlic, ginger, soy sauce, and rice vinegar. Make it with turkey, pork, tofu crumbles. But make it. The Birth of a Chef, the new Anthony Bourdain biopic Tony is set in 1970s Provincetown, at the end of Cape Cod. Some people and places Bourdain knew are still there. Pete Wells, our former restaurant critic, examines the scene then and now. More culture, Karan Mahajan, after finishing his novel The Complex, couldn't decide which opening passage was best. He reverted to his original. You can read both and vote. Young Miami's Spend Dat is one of summer's biggest songs, fueling controversy over money, power, and dating, and it's John Karamanek's Song of the Week. Late-night hosts reviewed Trump's eulogy for Senator Lindsey Graham. Jordan Klepper on The Daily Show. Can you just lie to us? Attempting to say anything nice about his late friend. The Morning recommends, keep a travel journal this summer, just for remembering in ways more fulfilling than scrolling your camera roll. Eat sweet corn for fiber. Apply DT. It's gotten a bad rap, experts told Wirecutter, and ticks hate it. Games, today's spelling bee. Yesterday's pangrams were Outboard and Troubadour. And the mini crossword, Wordle, Connections, Crossplay, and Strands. Thanks for spending part of your morning with the Times and me. See you tomorrow.